Well, you might be wondering why we're sitting here in the pool area at dusk. And this is an unusual episode. It's an episode that we thought long and hard about making. It was one that we were a bit scared to make. It was one that we were happy to make. It's one we're privileged to make. And it is this year's Father's Day video. Now, Father's Day is, of course, a wonderful day to celebrate the men in our lives, especially the fathers that we love. Simon is an incredible father. So first of all, I'd like to start out by celebrating and honoring him. This is going to, as always, it's a privilege for you to be my husband and for you to be Isabella's father. I'm so grateful for you. To my dad out there who is hopefully watching, happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you so much. But this Father's Day is going to be a bittersweet Father's Day.
Well, for those of you who don't know, my father died in May. He'd been ill for a while, and I had spent as much time as I could, as you probably know from our videos, going back and forth to Cyprus to see him. And he's been in a number of the videos, so you've seen him if you've watched our videos. But when it happened, it was still a surprise and a shock. So this Father's Day, we're kind of dedicating it to him because I think that's a good thing to do. It's a nice way to kind of celebrate his memory, celebrate him. We decided to take a little time to frame this Father's Day in the context of my father.
A lot of you who've been with us for the whole 5 years since we started the vlog, you know that even though we do share a lot, we tend not to share really deeply personal things. But you have spent 5 years with our family. You've come on family holidays with us to Cyprus, which is where Simon's parents have been living for the last 15 years. And we tend to only bring you along for the joy, but we do have sorrow. Of course, more than anything in the world, we do prioritize family, and we prioritize the things that are really, really important in life. And getting out a vlog, or even our responsibilities to the people that engage us to act on their behalf in our day jobs is very important. But most important is to honor family, be there for family. And so there have been a lot of trips back and forth to Cyprus lately. A lot of things, of course, that we haven't shared at the time, but it was a very momentous thing when we lost David, Simon's father. And I think we have so many things that were special about him and things that we would love to be able to share about him. This is not your typical vlog, but a vlog is a video diary, and this is a big, big part of our story. Also, we really want to honor all the people that have been there in David's life, because Sally and David, Simon's parents, just celebrated their 66th wedding anniversary. So not only did they receive a letter from the Queen, which we showed all of you, and that was a very wonderful and momentous occasion back in the early part of the vlog, but they had just recently received a letter from the King. Imagine being married for 66 years and being with someone for all of their trials, all of their tribulations. So obviously Simon's mother, we're really thinking of her at this moment. Simon's sister has been living in Cyprus, also helping them through this difficult time. But for those of you that may not know from a previous episode, Simon's father was struggling with Alzheimer's related dementia. And this is something that is a difficult thing for families to struggle with. But he was at home and lived at home right up until the very end. And it wasn't easy, of course, but he recognized all of us right up until the very end.
Being the eldest son, I've known my father since when I was born. So, within a few years, I started to have memories of being with my father. So, that's a long time. But in general, I think, my father was someone who loved his family, spent a lot of time with us as kids, me and my brothers and my sister. And he also spent a lot of time working hard to provide for us as a family, because he was first and foremost dedicated to his responsibilities as a father, which is why it's nice to honour him on Father's Day. I think also he was someone who liked to do things and fix things. He was an engineer by trade, by profession, and he loved nothing more when he was growing up, tinkering with bikes and cars, fixing things. I don't think he was like an avid DIY person, I think, and he never thought I was particularly good at doing DIY. He was, as a child, if he ever roped me into doing something, I think he was always terminally disappointed by what I came up with. It's only later on that as I got older that I became any good at doing anything myself.
He was really proud of you.
In terms of handyman, he was, but as a kid, I don't think he had much confidence that I would turn out to be able to do anything like I have done in DIY. Dad was an engineer. He was in the oil and gas industry. Once he left the RAF, which he did for a few years when he was very young. I remember him being in the RAF when I was a child. We lived in Malta and Cyprus on postings. But once we came back to the UK and he decided to leave and pursue a profession, he went into oil and gas industry and into construction of generally civil engineering projects related to oil and gas. So oil platforms, oil pipelines, these sorts of things. And he worked his way all the way up to being in charge of those projects, which he did later on in his life. And he was just all over the world. He went everywhere that the oil business was located. So he spent his entire time traveling around. He went to every continent except for Antarctica and Australia. But he went everywhere else. Anywhere there was oil, he had been there to work. Typically, as kids growing up, he was away for long periods of time. Mum pretty much looked after us growing up and so on. But when he came back after 3 months, typically away 3 months, back for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, he always spent a lot of time with the kids. Taking us out to places, trying to kind of see what we were up to as we were growing up and all these kinds of things. So I think he was a very proud dad of all the kids. And I think, he was just a typical father in that respect. He worked hard. He provided for his family. He was as present as much as he could be. And he had a pretty good life.
Had a boat, which you've since taken over. And so what is the connection you have with your dad in the boat?
Well, my father started sailing boats when I was probably 12, 14 years old. He had his first boat. And I was always roped into helping him, try and fix things, or try and do something on the boat, getting it ready, taking it out. And then, so that was his first boat. His first boat was a big 48-foot boat. And it was a Norwegian ketch, which he picked up, I think at a decent price. He spent a lot of time working on it. It was a solid boat, and we had many adventures sailing on that. And then he got a second boat with my brother, Stephen. They both kind of went in for it, and it's a sloop, about 27 foot long, which he spent a lot of time on. He sailed it, when he retired, he sailed it from the East Anglia in England all the way around to Cyprus, going through the Canal du Midi in Bordeaux, all the way down to Sète in the south of France, where that canal comes out, and it joins the Mediterranean. And then he sailed it all the way from there, in the south of France, across the Mediterranean to Cyprus. So that's the boat that we currently have.
You helped him sail that?
I sailed that boat with him on a couple of legs, which was great fun. Once he got to Cyprus, he spent some time doing some trips on it with my sister and her husband. When he said he was going to sell it, I said, well, I'll buy it from you. I was like, I'll take it. And so we took it between us, didn't we? We decided, in fact, it was your idea that we should buy it. So, because I didn't think of it at all, actually. Then Vivienne said, why don't you see if we can buy it together? And
it was really sentimental. You had all those memories
that connection
together.
And everything else was really a nice idea.
But the nicest thing is once he was still once he was too old to sail it himself, by you buying it and taking it out, the whole family, all of us together on multiple occasions, got to still take him out on the boat, and it was a great bonding experience.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with it. Everybody who got on the boat with him, you know, has got their stories of sailing with him. You know, he was a pretty hard taskmaster. I remember about him. It was a lot of fun, and he had a great experience on it.
Okay, sweetheart.
Looking forward to this.
You haven't seen this yet.
No.
I have, and it's really beautiful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
But you picked it, which was, I have to say, a huge surprise to me. I did not think that you would choose something like this. So I'm going to let you open it, and then you can tell everybody how you chose this.
Well,
open it up.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's have a look at this. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, that's very pretty, isn't it? Actually, that's not as bright as I thought it was going to be, which is nice. So this is a ring that has gold flake and real turquoise in it, and but I picked it because of my father's connection with the sea. He was a very, very keen sailor, and had boats most of his life. And I thought this would be a good ring to have between us, because the turquoise represents the colour of the sea, and it's a really pretty ring, and I have it engraved on the inside of the ring here. So I wanted to put something personal in the ring for my father, and connecting to the sea and his love of boats and sailing, which we did together many times, I wanted to put in here something that related to that. So I came up with a Latin inscription, in aeternum navigamus.
You can get it better with
and then I had the word father put on, pater, to translate to father. So basically what it says in English is sailing together forever, you know, sailing together forever, father. The Latin actually took that idea and really made it quite special, because it had this concept of eternity. So in aeternum navigamus, we're sailing together in eternity, father. So I think that's an awesome saying.
Yes, so it's given to you on your Father's Day as a gift for you for Father's Day, to honor your father. Now, one of the things that inspired us to create this video was actually an invitation to celebrate Fathers and Father's Day a few months ago by Gentle Bands, a company that makes hand-forged rings from extraordinary materials like steel, tungsten, whiskey barrels, guitar strings, and even bits of meteorite. Now, you guys know how much I love jewelry. It's very meaningful and symbolic, but men's rings can be sometimes less than exciting. But Gentle Bands are so unusual and sold as tokens of resilience, and they're also a beautiful gift to celebrate the fathers who quietly anchor their families. Now, every ring can be engraved, which is very beautiful. And initially, I thought that this would be a really fantastic gift to give to Simon for Father's Day, thinking I would choose this really pretty one that I found with wood and guitar strings to celebrate his songwriting and his talent and the joy that he brings us whenever he sings and plays music. But when we lost David, I told Simon about it, and he decided that he'd much rather have a ring to commemorate his own father. So this Father's Day, if you don't want to give your guy just another tie, what about something beautiful, meaningful, and masculine? A piece of history that matches his resilience. Upgrade his forever with Gentle Bands, and follow the link in my description and use my code for an exclusive Father's Day privilege, including free custom engraving.
It's very different from a lot of the other rings that you can pick, and I think this is something that I'll probably wear a long, long time. You know, this is really special.
It's really beautiful.
Because I have my wedding ring on this hand, but then I thought, well, I could probably keep this on this hand to remind me of my father, and I thought that was a really nice touch. So it's appropriate for Father's Day that I would have this ring made for him. But it's really the connection that I cherish. So yeah, I think it's perfect. Oh, I've got lots of childhood memories of my dad, of course, but I think one of my earliest ones was when he was coming home from the RAF and he had his uniform on still, and he kind of came in the room, in the sitting room in the house. We were billeted in RAF quarters. He basically came home one night, and I remember him picking me up and carrying him around, and he must have been in his early 20s. So that's kind of, those are my earliest memories of him. And some of those are my favourite ones, because I genuinely feel like he was just kind of experiencing married life, and he was just he was young, he had a kid, he was in the Royal Air Force, he was fatherhood, this was the first part of fatherhood. So crazy.
What would you say were your dad's greatest passions in life?
Well, sailing. Greatest passion, his family.
Yeah.
He liked going out and meeting people, and he loved his work. Although he hated being away from the family. If he could have done his work and been with the family, he would have been, really in heaven. He liked the company of other people. Fan of music as well. He liked music very much.
Welsh choirs.
He liked Welsh choirs, but he also loved, early jazz. And when he and Mum were growing up together, they went out dancing a lot, and at the time that was jazz music, jive music, and rock and roll, and these were the things. This was growing up in his period. This is all the stuff they used to go and dance to.
Didn't they used to win jive dancing competitions?
I don't know. I think they were very good. I don't know they actually won any competitions. I know they went in for a couple.
Yeah.
I think they might have won something or other. Yeah.
How did your parents meet?
They met at a dance. So they met at a dance in Wales called in Newport. It's quite an interesting story, because my mother was out with my aunt and they were at the dance together, and they were just talking, looking around, and my mother said to my aunt, do you know that guy over there? She had her eyes on somebody. And my aunt said, well, yeah. She said, could you introduce us? Do you know him well enough to introduce us? And she said, well, I should hope so. He's my brother. And so it was my Aunt Dinah, that introduced him and her and set off the relationship. And after that, I don't think they ever looked back. I think that was it. It was kind of love at first sight for both.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really, really sweet.
Back in the days when people got married really young and
they met each other out at dances. They didn't do anything on telephones or mobiles or applications. They were out with each other, basically socialising and dancing, and that's how they met each other. Yeah.
Well, what always struck me about your dad, because obviously you and I have been together now for over 30 years, and your dad was such an adventurer and just loved to constantly travel. And it wasn't really until the last 10 or so years in Cyprus that he was really, that was it was his final resting place. But he just loved to experience the world and all parts of the world, the Middle East, the Far East, all sorts of places, always traveling, always learning. And despite fairly modest beginnings, constantly learning, constantly reading, and loving to talk about history and this general and that war and that.
Well, I think Dad liked lots of things. He liked current affairs. He liked to talk about that. He was very opinionated. He liked to pick and choose his history, for sure. He liked to pick and choose his history. I think that, he was just a great fan, as you said, of learning. He loved to learn, and he had a great growth mindset. He was always looking for new experiences and new ideas. He was extremely curious about lots of things. And I think, he just, for his generation, that was actually quite a unique thing, He wasn't satisfied just to do what so many of his schoolmates did, which was to kind of find a job locally and stay in Wales and work in Wales. He was out of Wales as soon as he could go. As a young man, he jumped at the chance to do something where he might travel. He wanted to see the rest of the world. He wanted to see what was out there. I have to admire him because he basically worked out what it was he wanted to do, and then he went ahead and did it. And that was really something that I think, at that time was really quite rare.
We had a really beautiful experience in Cyprus. Not all passings are easy, but your father, I think it's safe to say, was surrounded by family. At home, with a smile on his face.
If he was watching his final moments, he'd have been very happy with the way it all worked out. He seemed at peace. It happened quite quickly, actually. I was surprised. I thought he might go on a few more days or even a few more weeks. But we knew, I think, with dementia, it's such a sad disease, but I think essentially once you forget to eat or you forget how to eat, which is one of the horrible things about this disease, is that essentially your body just stops doing the basic functions like eating, swallowing, these kinds of things. Once you get to that point, it's not very long. And he got there quite quickly, actually. I was surprised at that. But in a way, I think he wouldn't have had it any other way. Going on for 2 or 3 years, which some people do, and which we've heard stories of friends and other people that have suffered the same thing, but their spouse has gone on for 2 or 3 years with dementia. Dad didn't really last that long. It was very good in that sense, so it was quite fast. So he was pretty good right up until the last 2-3 years. Then it went downhill, and then finally I was trying to get to see him before he died, and I got there a little bit late. I heard that he had died when the vicar was blessing him, and giving him his was anointing him. And it's a beautiful. I understand it was a beautiful moment, and we'd all probably want to go that way. I mean, really, he was extremely lucky in that sense. So it was a blessing in the end that that's how it happened. And he just slipped away, and while the vicar was apparently anointing him. So let's hope we all go that way.
And we were really lucky. We were all able to be there for the funeral. And I have to say, in northern Cyprus, there's a wonderful association of British people who have created the British Cemetery, which is up in the hills, overlooking the ocean. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It couldn't be any more spectacular. And there your dad is, overlooking the ocean. And I think it was a really, if it can be said, it was a wonderful experience to be a part of that. I'm so grateful for your dad, because if it obviously weren't for your dad, there would be no you. And
I think the funeral was really good.
It was the eulogy.
I did give the eulogy. Not sure how well I did it, but anyway, it was a difficult moment. But I think that the funeral itself was really wonderful. Just a beautiful moment. His friends and family, from the area were there. His kids all flew over. We all flew over. Isabella and you came, so we were there as a family. Finding the cemetery was a real blessing, because it's a beautiful place, and he's there with people he knew. Some of the people he's buried with there were people he knew.
His friends.
And his friends, It's just kind of very fitting. I was absolutely just amazed at how well it all came together, and how it just seemed to fit. Everything just seemed to go the way you would want it to go. It was very, very good. And I think it's a beautiful place that he's in. And he's close to Mum. She can go see him if she wants, although I'm not sure that's something she wants to do particularly, it's very hard for her at the moment, as you can imagine. Whenever you lose someone like that close, it's very raw for a long time. You know, that person who's been around you all the time is no longer there. It's very difficult.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, so she's working her way through that. She's got my brother there, one of my brothers there to help her. The way his life worked out was really good. I think he was very happy with it.
Went full circle.
Yeah, it did. I mean, that's basically what life is, you know. And he had a wonderful, blessed, fortunate life. He had a great time in many ways. He lived it full of adventure. I mean, he really lived a rich life. And I'm so happy that that's the way it went, because, you know, I'd hate to be thinking, oh, you know, my father's died, but he really wasn't happy. He didn't have a great life. He had a hard time. You know, that's very tough. I think that it's just so nice to be able to think, wow, what a great life he led, and how wonderful the end of his life was, you know. So that's one of those things you can really be blessed for.
Yeah, be really grateful.
I'm really grateful for that, yeah.
And as always, the hardest part is not for those that move on to whatever is next, but for those of us left behind.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting decision to discuss this on YouTube with our friends who follow us, because we talked a long time about this, about whether this would be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think you know, when knowing a lot of you may even felt like you knew my father a little bit because you saw him in the videos, and so we decided that talking about him and celebrating his life a little bit, especially on Father's Day, was the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And I think that just pretending after he had died that, you know, he wasn't there anymore and so we just move on is probably not fair. I think it's a really nice idea that we talk about. I mean, of course, everybody, I'm sure all of you watching, have lost close relatives and family. So this is something you'll all be familiar with, the grieving process and everything else. And I think, you know, one thing I've learned is that ignoring it doesn't really help at all. I think discussing it and talking about it and celebrating the person involved who's died is the best way to honour them and to celebrate them. So
As you said, it's always been a difficult decision for us to know how much to share whilst being respectful of everyone in the family. We absolutely made the decision at the time to not be like blogging it on the go or something. That would have been wildly inappropriate. But we thankfully we had a lot of DIY that we had been doing, and so I was able to share some of that with you, you know. And then in the last couple of episodes, if we've been doing DIY, it's been a great way. Keeping busy has been a great way to help move through this. And Simon, happily living here in France, was able to take bereavement leave. We're grateful to be able to have such love and respect for all of you out there, and to have such positive feedback, and to really feel so close to many of you, and especially now having met some of you, that it is a privilege to be able to share these important milestones. And we did know that there would be a time with us, with all of our parents still alive, that at some point we would have to cross this bridge. And we didn't know how or when that was going to happen. Amongst all of our YouTube vlogging friends, since any of us started the vlog, we only have one close friend who was dealing with a similar loss of his mother recently. But we've often talked privately amongst ourselves how, you know, if someone just is no longer there, no longer in the videos, how do we address that? It's very difficult to just smile and say, and now we're off to another exciting brocante, or now, you know, look what we're doing in the, I mean, we do have that excitement and that pleasure to share with you, and 99% of the time, it's all about the love. It's all about the Chateau love. It's all about the positivity. But I think we decided that this situation was still about positivity and still about love. That even though our hearts are sad, we are joyous that I had what the French call mon beau-père, beautiful father.
Your father-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds better in French, doesn't it?
Mon beau-père.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it is a nice way of saying it. Yep. So anyway, so we wanted to share that a little bit, talk to you a little bit, talk together a little bit about it, and I hope it hasn't been too much of a downer for everybody who's watching. It really wasn't meant to be that. It's really meant to be kind of a celebration, a little bit on Father's Day. I feel personally that I couldn't have had a better father. So it's been wonderful, that he's been in my life, and I think he deserved on Father's Day to have a little recognition. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And we have this wonderful ring now to remember him by, which is great. And every time I go on the boat, I'm going to think about him. Every time I go back to Cyprus, I'll think about him. And he's with me anyway in everything I do.
For those of you out there who've still got your fathers, celebrate them.
Yes.
If you've lost your father,
absolutely
remember him.
They may not be around. If they're old, they won't be around forever. So make sure
every moment.
You cherish the moments with them, and take out extra time to tell them you love them and that you want to be with them and that kind of thing.
Yes. And as you can see, we chose to sit by the water. David loved the water.
He did.
And
although he didn't like swimming in pools.
He did. He much preferred to swim in the ocean.
He much preferred to swim in the sea. He loved swimming in the sea, but anyway.
But on that note, as you can see, the sun is actually setting on us. We're getting darker and darker as we're talking. We finally got up the courage to come down here and sit and finally have this conversation. Happy Father's Day to all of you.
Happy Father's Day to everybody.
And we love you, wishing you lots of Chateau love. And in our next videos, there will be, of course,
some DIY.
Yes. Yes.
Goodbye, everybody. Celebrate your fathers, enjoy your time, and tell them how special they are. As long as I have been your friend, as long as I have shared my life with you, as long as I have laughed and cried, as long as I have known you all this time, and now as I sit here beside you at your bed, I have one thing to ask of my old friend. One last favor of you before the end. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me with you. Wherever it is you go to next, take a piece of me with you. As much as I have known this would pass, as much as I have pushed those thoughts away, as much friendship through all the years, through good times and bad times, and laughter and tears. I only have one last favor to ask of you. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me with you. Wherever it is that you go to next, take a piece of me with you. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me. Take a piece of me with you. Wherever it is that you go to next.